Hello everyone, I'm Barbara McRae. Thank you for watching today. Did anyone win the ticket for free lunches at the diner for the month of July? Even if you don't plan to use it, I hope you let us know if you have it so that we can decide if this is worth doing again. Meantime, we are going to try some new things to pique your interest. Check your newsletter for that, or if you have any ideas for us, call the Council on Aging and let us know, and that number is 978-540-2470. And speaking of the newsletter, you will be getting just one for the months of July and August. Not much news, so they've combined it into one. So don't think you didn't receive a letter in August, because it will all be with the July news. Right now, here is Gail and what's at the diner for July and August. Hi, Gail.
Hello, Barbara. For the month of July here in the Senior Diner, we have a lot of things going on. On July 22nd, the COA will have their annual cookout, and that will be $3 for the cookout. And right after the cookout, we'll be having our ice cream social, and we usually get a big crowd, so everybody come down for the cookout and for the ice cream social. But $3 for the cookout. Also on July 8th will be the ladies' breakfast. July 14th, that's a Wednesday, will be the Minuteman Senior Services birthday breakfast. So for the month of July, anybody who gets an invitation or whose birthday, come sign up, and Minuteman will pay for your lunch. And also we buy a beautiful, the COA buys a beautiful, beautiful cake. And on the 21st will be the men's breakfast. So we have a lot of activities going on, and hopefully bingo will be in full swing by then, and hopefully we get more and more people to come down to the diner. So hope to see you in the diner.
All right, Gail. Thank you. Last month, we had Ann Essman give us information about the tax work-off program. The volunteers waited for you to sign up at the Council on Aging. It was slow going, I imagine, because some of you still don't understand how it works. I hope Ann was able to help you, and if you didn't sign up for this program, I still hope we didn't lose you as a volunteer, because volunteers are very important to the Council on Aging, and there is always a place for you. If you have any questions, please call the COA and we will try to help you. Again, the number is 978-540-2470. We will be showing 2 movies a month because you have showed that you enjoyed this program. Come to room 230, 2nd floor, Shattuck Street, and watch old, new, or just plain movies. Barbara Cam and Barbara McRae and Nancy Friday will host the movie days. Do you have a pencil? Those dates are Monday, July 12th, Thursday, July 29th, Monday, August 9th, and Thursday, August 26th, and all of that at 1 p.m. And we hope to see you there. Plan to join us for potluck lunches this summer. July 16th and August 20th are the dates for those, but sign up at the Senior Diner at 978-540-2474. Evanthea Valakis is here with news from Indian Hill. Evanthea?
Thanks, Barbara. And summer is in full swing here at Indian Hill. It's not too late to come by and take a music lesson with us. If you've got an instrument in the closet and you want to pull it out, summer's a great time. We have flexible scheduling and all kinds of opportunities for you for lessons, voice lessons, instrument lessons, whatever you like. So give us a call here, 486-9524, or online at indianhillmusic.org. And as far as events go, summer is when we have our summer musical theater program, and we've got kids ages 8 to 18 working on a great production of the Broadway hit Annie, and that will be presented on Friday, July 23rd, Saturday, July 24th, and Sunday, July 25th. And we've got shows at 7 p.m. and at 2 p.m. And check that out online or give us a call, 486-9524, for tickets. Tickets are $12 for adults and $10 for students for that. And that's production of Annie, and you won't want to miss that. It's going to be great. And then coming down the road, I want to let families know about something that's coming up in September. On September 11th, we've got A favorite family performer is Mr. Steve Songs, and his band will be here at Indian Hill on September 11th for 2 shows, 10:30 and 3:30 p.m. Tickets are $15, and we want all families in the area to know about that, and call us and get your tickets lined up now, because this could be a sellout. September 11th, 2 shows with Mr. Steve. So it's indianhillmusic.org or 486-9524 for more information. So come on down and visit us. It's nice and cool here.
Our outreach coordinator, Tina Mater's Living Alone support group, will meet in room 230 on Thursday, July 15th at 10:30 in the morning. And there's no meeting in August, but call Tina at 540-2472. Dr. Weekland will be here with the podiatry clinic in August. No date yet, but call the Council on Aging for more information. The Cannon Theater is offering free admission to Littleton seniors to dress rehearsals. The theater is on the 2nd floor of the Old Mill Building, 410 Great Road in Littleton. I've heard great reviews on their plays, so call 978-760-3397 for information. If they need costumes for their plays at the Cannon Theater, they should try our friend's thrift shop. We have clothes to fit any occasion, and that could mean for a wedding, a party, work, casual, or even something vintage. So, if you're in a play, or just like vintage, or going to a wedding, a party, work, or casual, come on in and see what we have. Eleanor Ruggio has checked the racks and found something casual this month. Something she can wear when she is out and about or here working at the thrift. Don't think everything here is Ellen's size though, because we have a great variety of sizes. And now that it's yard sale time, most of you are cleaning out the closets, so our thrift shop has been getting more merchandise every day. We are always surprised to see the collection of beautiful clothes and accessories we are privileged to get. So thank you again and again and again for your donations. Please don't forget the town office will be closed on Monday, July 5th. No Meals on Wheels, and the senior diner will be closed too. You know, every month, my favorite saying to close the show is, don't forget to hug a senior. And recently, I saw a poem by an unknown author titled Hugs. I'd like to share that with you. It's wondrous what a hug can do. A hug can cheer you when you're blue. A hug can say, I love you so, or gee, I hate to see you go. A hug is welcome back again, and great to see you. Where have you been? A hug can soothe a small child's pain and bring a rainbow after rain. The hug, there's just no doubt about it. We scarcely could survive without it. A hug delights and warms and charms. It must be why God gave us arms. Hugs are great for fathers and mothers, sweet for sister, and swell for brothers. And chances are some favorite aunts love them more than potted plants. Kittens crave them, puppies love them, heads of state are not above them. A hug can break the language barrier and make the dullest day seem merrier. No need to fret about the store of them. The more you give, the more there are of them. So stretch those arms without delay and give someone a hug today. And most of all, don't forget to hug a senior. Now don't go away, because this month we have 2 special guests. Nathan Lamb, the new editor of the Littleton Independent, and I hope you enjoy my interview with Susan Tordella, who is here to tell us about her new book titled Raising Abel. Stay with us. Betsy Levinson has moved on to another company and will be missed as the editor of The Independent. But we look forward to introducing the new editor, Nathan Lamb, who comes to us from Neshoba Publishing. Nathan has jumped into his new job with both feet. because I met him his third day on the job when he was going door to door at the townhouse to meet everyone and anyone who may contribute to his newspaper. I convinced him to come on the show so that you also would have the chance to meet him. So welcome, Nathan.
Thank you.
Let's start out by you telling us a little bit about yourself. Like, for instance, I need to know, were you on the school newspaper? I mean, when did you decide to, be a journalist?
Well, it's kind of a funny story, actually. I was not on the school newspaper, but I took a circuitous route. I basically started out by majoring in English literature. I thought of teaching at first, and then a couple child psych courses told me that wasn't the way. So I had a lot of interest in sports, and I thought of doing sports journalism. I even interned at a large daily paper for it, but I just didn't want to spend that much time at games. So I sort of took a break from it. When I came back, I started doing general assignment and the sort of things I do now. And I realized I liked it a lot better, and that was in 2003, and I've been doing it ever since.
Oh, okay. So were you a little bit surprised about getting offered this particular job, and excited too, probably?
It was a very pleasant and exciting surprise. I had actually interviewed with Gatehouse about a year ago, and I was a runner-up. And when they had another opening, we got in touch. But yeah, I've been doing reporting for about 7 years, and I was reaching a point where I wanted to try and be the captain of my own ship with the newspaper, and it's been a fun experience so far.
Well, we read the Littleton Independent and the Lowell Sun, which I understand you were featured in the Lowell Sun, what, last year or recently? And
since last August.
Okay. So I was just wondering, do you have any ideas, like changes or anything that you want to do with this paper?
Well, this was very much a personal choice. I didn't do a lot of research beforehand, but my initial thought was I heard a lot of good things about how involved the community was with the Independent. So when I started, really my theme was that I didn't want to make any changes right off the bat, because it seemed like it was a successful paper and that people were reading it and enjoying it and involved with it. So I didn't want to come in and make wholesale changes only to have people say, why did you change that? That was my favorite part of the paper. So in terms of changes up front, I would say no. I certainly have my own approach to covering news that I plan on, I already have been bringing to the paper, I think. But in terms of the things that we do that work, I'm hoping to retain those and keep those going.
So you have like anything particular or special or surprises that you want to capture the readers with?
Well, I'd have to say that I've been told, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say so, I've been told at each stop that I'm a pretty good writer. So I'm hoping to write a couple stories a week that are really good, that are interesting, that are going to draw people into the paper. I always think that I just am good at boiling down a big story and making it so I can put it in plain English and making it short. That's how I look at it. But people say, "Oh, Nathan, you're a good writer." And I kind of shrug. But that's what I'm hoping to bring. It's some hard news, some good features. Ideally, I'd do a good hard news story every week and a good feature, something that would be interesting and different.
So you'll probably be out there looking for people who can contribute too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because you'd be surprised. You would be surprised how many people in our town really do interesting, fabulous things. I found that out by just doing this program. We decided to concentrate on Littleton. Although now we're expanding out there a little further, not because we don't have more stories about Littleton, but because we just felt like we're finding other things that we want to bring to people's attention. But you're going to be very surprised at what you'll find right here in our small little town that's very interesting, and people who should contact you and give you.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. One of my major things I learned very early on in doing stories is I did learn that in general People are more interesting than you'd think. And
Yep.
it's kind of something, when I go in and interview people, I don't assume it's going to be boring, because I think if you assume that, it is going to be boring.
Right,
But a lot of times, if you give people a chance to talk about their interests, and they get enthusiastic about it, you can be surprised. I find myself surprised almost on a daily basis with this job. And it's an interesting thing in that way. So a lot of times I think I'm the most boring person I know. So in that respect, it's kind of nice.
Well, did you know anything about Littleton before you came here? I mean, you know, had you been here before? Did you scout it out or just hear about it? What did you know about Littleton?
Well, the funny thing is that I've worked in Harvard, Air, and Groton. And so I've driven through Littleton quite a bit when I was going to Air. I used to go to work up Route, I think it's 2A, by Aggregate.
Yep,
And then I would go up 119 to reach Groton. So when your road was out earlier this year, when 119 was out earlier this year, I had a couple times where I was on deadline, I had to take the long way around. So I definitely have driven through Littleton a lot. In terms of actually coming into town and meeting people, that's really all new to me. And I've done this now probably in 6 or 7 different communities, and I find it to be a really fun and interesting phase of the job, so I'm looking forward to it in that respect.
Well, I was thinking that you might be, because of the fact that when I came into the townhouse that day, there you were, 3rd day on the job, talking to people, finding probably stories or just meeting people to find out what's going on. I thought that was really quite nice of you to do.
It's a people business. You have to get out and meet people. And I have one of my other theories is that people are a lot more likely to call you back if they've met you.
That's
so
true.
It's good to meet as many people, well, and assuming it's a positive meeting. But yeah, it's a good idea to get out and meet people. And definitely the folks at Town Hall are probably going to be hearing from me on occasion. So it's good you don't want the first time you stop in to be when, oh, I need this on deadline, please help out. It's nice to have stopped in and introduced yourself beforehand. And to give people a card so that they know they can give you a call and that they're welcome to talk with you.
Do you go out there and look for a story, or do you wait for one to come to you? Because I find that just doing this show, I have so much fun if I'm even just standing in line someplace and someone says, oh, I show dogs for a living and they're the special breed, and I stop and say, hello? Would you like to talk to me a minute? Because I need to know more about that. It might be an interesting show. Do you do something like that in journalism? How do you get your news?
Well, it's really a mix. I guess the first thing I'd say is that in the 7 years or so I've been doing this, I've always had more stories than I had time to write. Which is a nice, and I think that goes back to being a people person and having people wanting to talk to you. I'd imagine if you aren't, you wouldn't. I would say, as an editor, I get a lot of people who do contact me. I probably get at least 30 emails a day.
Really?
A lot of those are just mass emailings, but a fair percentage of them are people who have news or are interested in contacting me about something. I'm still perfecting that, but sometimes you'll get an email where you're like, oh, that would make a good story, or someone will call with that. And then there's other times where you're out and about and you see something that's interesting. And I have to admit, I haven't had that happen yet in Littleton, but I've only been here for 2 or 3 weeks. I would say it's a mixture of both. And another one, of course, is that you get to know people and you see them around and you chat and they'll tell you things that are going on. And that's an important thing. And so it's interesting. It's a mix.
Do you have a favorite story that you wrote about over the past years?
Well, I have to admit that let me see. I guess I'll break that into 2 different things. The story I'm most proud of recently was I covered the elections in Groton earlier this spring, and that made front page above the fold in the Lowell Sun. And for Mother's Day, I took a collage of different newspaper things, like my first issue with the Littleton Independent, and then the Lowell Sun article, and a thing so you could see like the masthead. And I framed it up as a collage and gave it to her for Mother's Day. So that was, because it meant a lot for her to see that, that my career was going well. So that was one I was pretty proud of. In terms of writing, I guess I did do a lot of writing about when there was a debate over whether Fort Devens was going to become a town or not. And I was pretty proud of that whole body of work. I felt like I did a really good job making sure people in Ayer and Harvard and Shirley really knew what was going on in those deliberations, which I could probably do an hour on that some other show. But it was good. I felt like I really, and since I worked in all three towns, I felt like I could really sort of bring everything together in a good way. So I was proud of that, but I try and write one story a week at least that I'm proud of. Like I felt like I went a little above and beyond, put some value added in there, in addition to the things we need to do to keep up. But I never assume that people are going to read a story I write just because it's in the paper. I do try and make it, what does it matter to me as the reader? Like, I wouldn't want someone to read the lead of a story and be like, oh, why should I care about that? I try, like in the first paragraph, to make it clear to the reader why this story is interesting, why it should matter to them. And a lot of times that's either because it's going to impact you in the pocketbook or just because it's interesting. Here's a person in your community that's interesting, this is why. I usually like to put that right in the first paragraph because I'm a reader, and if I read the first paragraph and I don't understand what the story's about, I'm going to move on to the next story. That's the way readers generally are. So I hope that answered the question.
It did. But tell me, are you going to be looking for any new stories in particular? Are you looking for people to write something in particular, let you know about things in particular? Do you have a list or something?
I don't have a list just yet. I know that we have the Your News submissions, which I've been getting a lot of, which is really great. And that's the ones where people will send a photo and they'll send like a little caption about what that given event was. Those are great. I got a couple of things about people who won awards, either for scholarly things or for helping seniors. Those were great. I sent those in. Really a lot of stuff that's interesting. I had a lady who called me earlier this week who told me that she has been pen pals with a guy from Germany for 70 years.
Oh my.
And I'm going to interview her tomorrow, and I'm hoping that that one works out, because that's the sort of thing where probably if you met this lady and looked at her, you know, you bumped into her at the library, you'd never know.
Oh.
And that's kind of an interesting thing. Is I'm hoping when I write the story it's going to be good and interesting, and I'll have a photo that goes with it. People see it and they're like, oh, I know that lady. I had no idea.
Right, right. That sounds like fun.
It goes back to that theory of people are generally a lot more interesting than we give ourselves credit for.
But you know something? I bet you she didn't think that was interesting all these years, and then all of a sudden decided it was. Whereas that's what I think is going on in town all the time. I mean, probably any town, but I'm talking particularly about Littleton right now. There are people out there that probably have these little stories that they think are not that interesting to someone else. But that is interesting, and they maybe should contact you and say, well, maybe you won't think this is interesting, but I've had a pen pal for 70 years, and I wondered, you know, would anybody want to hear about this? And you, as the journalist, says, you know, I think people would read about that. So, in a way,
I think you're right.
That's what it needs to be done. People need to really rethink whether they think their story is important or not, and get a hold of you and let you decide.
I think that's absolutely, I think that's kind of a definition of community journalism you just gave me there. And when I came on board with Gatehouse Media and the Littleton Independent, they told me that community journalism was a big part of what the Littleton Independent does. And it's kind of interesting in terms of my past history. I was at Neshoba Publishing, which was a weekly with a very hard news focus. And then we went to Vermont for a couple of years. I was there from '07 to '09, and I worked at a paper that was based in the town that it was like right on Main Street in town, and the editor had been there for 17 years, and it was very much community journalism oriented, and I learned sort of how to mix the two. Like I'd do police news if we had to, but if a school class was going on a field trip to the farm, I'd show up and take a photo.
Yeah.
And it's kind of being well-rounded like that. That's a good thing for community journalism, is you showing, oh, this is our community, this is what people in it are doing.
Yeah.
It's a big part of it. So I think that goes back to what you were talking about.
Yeah, and I have heard people say, I hate to say this to you, but I have heard people say that sometimes they don't feel that Littleton is in the Littleton Independent enough. And that they may have to look, excuse me, at the Lowell Sun to see anything about Littleton. So I'm just warning you ahead of time.
I appreciate it.
But, you know, they need to help you a little bit if they feel that they want more news about Littleton. I know that, you know, the Country Gardeners, for instance, I'm going to mention them because I'm with them, also like to send in photos and what they're doing, and I'm sure the Rotary and, you know, any of the town clubs. And you like to read about them because they're people that you know.
Absolutely.
They're people you know. Now, I'm not saying we don't read other papers and learn news things that are all over the world, but when it comes to Littleton Independent, you want to see your friends and you want to hear what news is happening around here.
It's absolutely true. The niche of a weekly paper like the Littleton Independent is that it's all news about the local community. The Lowell Sun might have a lot more writers on staff, and they have someone over at the courthouse, and they pick up AP stories. They cover a wide swath of things. In Littleton, there might be 10 inches about Littleton in a given day. The Littleton Independent, you know, you can buy it and it's going to be all about Littleton. There's going to be calendar events about what's happening locally. There's going to be photos with little captions about things that have happened locally. There's going to be stories where we learned about something that was happening locally and we thought it was important, so we went out and did a story about it.
Right.
And so you're going to be able to, my goal, and I think we will be able to get there, and actually I think when this issue comes out tomorrow, I think you'll see it, is that it's going to be filled with a lot of news that is about Littleton, and it is my plan to do that week in and week out. And possibly part of the problem is that when we were in transition, maybe they had to, that's everyone pitching in to help get through. So.
Right, right. What won't you accept?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I am still learning some of there's a lot of things that are general practice in journalism that are good, hard, fast rules, but I'm still learning my company's policies. Generally, the Your News things, those are nonprofit groups or community groups. One of the things that's a pretty good, hard, and fast rule, so please don't quote me, but
okay.
When you have a business that's submitting something that's pretty clearly an advertisement, sort of masquerading as a news story, those we usually can't take. There are times where it's possible, like if a local business wins an award or something like that, we can consider that. But if it's something where it's, you know, if it doesn't meet a certain news standard.
Okay.
But nonprofit and community groups, you know, absolutely. There is kind of a difference there, because with businesses, the thing is that you prefer they buy advertising, because that's a big part of how we do. You know, we love letters to the editor, but letters to the editor that have personal attacks or you're accusing people of improprieties. Okay. Those are the sorts of things where we may have to write back and sort of go over it with the person who wrote it. Right. And I guess another thing is that a lot of times if people submit things, it may be too long, or just the way it's written, we might need to edit it and reword it. So that will happen sometimes. I think the question I get asked the most is, why didn't that run yet? Oh, yeah. And one of the biggest challenges I've found so far is that the Littleton Independent has about 20 pages. It's a challenge every week to fit in as much as I can. And get all those things in there. A lot of times it hasn't been a question of not having enough. It's been a question of trying to fit as much as I can each week, and then people calling and asking about, oh, what happened with this? I submitted this a week or two ago. Okay. So that a lot of times maybe it's a case of it hasn't run yet, but definitely emailing me or giving me a call is a good way to do that. And I'd give the email address, but I think it's basically nlamb@cnc.com. So letter N, my name, lamb like sheep, followed by at cnc.com. And that's a good way to contact me and check on things like that. Well, good. So we're going to be looking for some good stuff from you. And I want to welcome you to Littleton. Thank you.
And I want you to say hi to Nathan when you see him and send those articles. I'm sure he'll want to hear what is happening in town. But stay right where you are, because up next is Susan Tordella. I met Susan Tordella years ago when she was coincidentally the editor of the Littleton Independent. Susan also took her job seriously, but didn't let it keep her from all the other hobbies, activities, dreams, and raising 4 children. One such project was to write her book, Raising Able: How Chores Cultivate Competent, Confident Young People. So welcome, Susan.
Hi, Barbara.
So do people really give their kids chores today?
They do. And some people actually object to the word chores.
Oh.
I think it's kind of old-fashioned.
Yeah.
But I did a study for the book, and I surveyed people from age 11 to age 90, many of them Littleton residents.
Okay.
And I found out that chores are still in style.
Well, it's getting them to do the chores. And I know that your book actually could help people, work with that.
Well, that's the hitch, isn't it? Getting them to do the chores without begging, bribing, threatening, or belittling, right? Or even beating some people. Fortunately, that's gone way out of style, huh?
Yeah, that has.
But the way I say to get started is to have a family meeting.
Uh-huh.
Did you have a family meeting with your kids or in where you grew up?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to remember exactly how I did things. It seemed like I started when they were so young that it was just automatic after a while.
Chores?
They were pretty good, yes.
That's the best time to start.
Except I have to say that a chore such as cleaning your bedroom,
Yes.
my son was much better at it than my daughter. And I used to tell him, and she both, I'm putting his bedroom at the top of the stairs because if I have to see anything that looks good, it's going to be his room, and she was down the other end.
Right. And you convinced your children to clean their bedrooms?
Well, I had to do it, and so just was me, I guess, old-fashioned.
Well, one of the things that people might be surprised at in my book is that I encourage them to allow their children to make that decision. Mm-hmm. And they can experience the natural and the logical consequences of having a dirty room or a clean room, or if they can't find things, or maybe their friends are coming over and you have to kind of walk between. I mean, I have found dead mice in my children's bedroom.
Oh, no. Well,
the smell helped me find it. And see, when I teach parenting classes, they love to hear this. They love to hear my failures because then they're free to say what they found in their son's bedroom.
Well, actually, so was this part of the reason why you decided to write this book? I mean, because you were thinking about the chores, you needed them to do chores.
Well, you may have heard this word lately, entitlement.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
It is impossible to be entitled if you clean toilets, sweep the floor, and do the dishes.
Right.
And so many families are so busy today, they might say, oh, I don't have time, it's one more thing, and I hate to, put that burden because families are so busy and so stressed. And it is an investment in the future of that young person.
But they're so interested in their games, and they're so interested in their texting with their little phones. I mean, I have seen them actually do things around the house or outside with that phone. Text. Okay, do this. Oh, there's an answer. Text. I mean, what do you do about that?
I think that what good parenting sense has to be applied to electronics. You have to set boundaries. Going back to family meetings. That's the first thing you do if your children are involved in chores now. Okay? And a family meeting, you take turns running the family meetings. You take turns keeping the notes, and you have to keep the notes. Because later on they're really funny. Okay?
And also, it's fun saying, I want that in writing.
There you go. I never thought of that.
You can always go back and look. It's in writing.
And you also have compliments that you say, I like the way you do something. So even if a child is steaming mad at you, or maybe you have a child who might not be your favorite, like I've had children where we've been in big power struggles, and I have to find something positive to say and think about them. And it really changes the relationship. So you have compliments, you have a snack, you have family fun at the end of a family meeting, and you make decisions. Who's going to do the recycling? Okay, how are we going to solve this conflict between so-and-so and so-and-so? So they're really useful.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm telling everybody this secret.
I don't think it'll be a secret anymore, Barbara.
Because I did something terrible recently. My granddaughter is 15, and my daughter and her 2 children live with us, and the boy is 7 today, and my granddaughter is 15, and I wanted her to clean her room last week, and I said, if you love me, it's not in the book, right?
So, so you're using guilt.
Oh, well, it just got to that point.
Did it work?
Yes. It did.
Well, you know, sometimes Grandma has to play the joker.
Right, right. Well, probably she would do that for Grandma, maybe not for Mother.
And she is a guest in your house. You know, it's a little different of a situation, but you did something that worked without yelling.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's good, or punishing.
Yeah, well, I had been asking for a long time. So I went to the, my mother's thing,
guilt.
If you love me, you'll do it, you'll clean your room. And actually, I did it really nicely. I didn't do it that way, did it. Well, if you love me.
Yeah.
And it worked, and she's been kind of keeping it. It's going to fail again, because she's a teenager, and I know what you're saying. They're going to walk over the piles of clothing, and, you've got to find a way. I feel, though, I'm sorry, but I feel like if you're together and you have a good structure, then your life is going to go along like that. Where I look at the bedroom and I see the clothes piling up and I say, no, I don't want you to fail.
All right, that's a good point. You say, I don't want you to fail. So you've heard of helicopter parents, along with entitlement. Helicopter parents can't stand to see their little ones fail or suffer in any way. Whereas in the book and in my parenting classes, I recommend people allow their children to have small failures, to suffer a little. Because we're really only, at the end of the day, motivated by 2 things, fear and desire.
Yeah.
So if you experience natural and logical consequences when you're young, over things that aren't that important. I can't find the right pair of pants. I have to wear my winter clothes because my summer clothes on here. I forgot my homework. I'm in trouble. I forgot my musical instrument. Give them enough rope to burn, but not enough to hang. They learn that there are consequences to their decisions.
Except when they get to school and Grandma, I forgot my stuff.
Yes.
Can you bring it?
Yes. And do you do it?
The mother does. I have done it. Yes, I've done it because I feel as though she needs it. And I mean, this doesn't happen all the time. Don't get me wrong. It sounds like my poor granddaughter is doing everything like this. But these are just points that I'm bringing up that happen.
And that's a really good point. And what I would do with my children is say you can have 1, 2, or 3 rides, special, school deliveries. And after that, you might owe me some time.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it took me a half hour to go up there and back. I mean, when you have 4 children, Barbara, it's systems. We need systems. We need survival. Okay.
Yeah.
But so maybe I've done this for you. Now you owe me a half hour of something that you might not normally do. That might not be the cleanest job or something.
I like that. I like that a lot. I feel good doing that then.
Yeah.
I mean, because I feel that if they learn to make some sort of payment for receiving something. I mean, it doesn't have to happen all the time. But like you say, in a case like this where you are taking out of your time, I might be rushing to an appointment and I have to turn and go that direction. So I think saying, I'm going to do this because I want you to have what you need, but I would like it if you paid me back by drying the dishes tonight.
Or cleaning out my car maybe for a half hour.
Cleaning the car, washing the car.
They normally wouldn't do, Now, that pay brings up another good point that I make in the book. and that is to not pay children for chores. Unless they are paying you for what you do.
Haha.
Like, for example, one of my sons was about 8 years old, and he said, Mom, time to do the dishwasher, Noah. Mom, would you pay me for doing the dishwasher? Sure, Noah. I'll pay you for doing the dishwasher. I'll give you $3, except dinner is $5.
With my cooking, they would probably 50
They'd
cents
take
would be it. So I can't use that one. But
Well, do you know that money is the lowest motivation for anyone to do anything?
oh, that's interesting.
And if you pay them once, you're guaranteeing you have to pay them from then on.
Yeah.
And then they kind of get a little, choosy about what they'll do and what they won't do.
And how much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't want it. I'll just walk away. I bet I have to go play my video games or go text somebody.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that I read was that you had a different title for your book, which was "I'm Not Your Slave," and I also have something about that because, again, I was busy last week with my grandchildren. I'm telling you, because my grandson, he got up. I was supposed to send him to school that day, and he got out of bed, and everything went on the floor, and his bedspread was thrown on the floor, and his clothes and everything. And I was standing there, I looked at him, and I said, "Your title, Kyle, I am not your slave." But then it was, "Do you know what a slave is?" And it was like, no.
Didn't know what a slave was.
No. So I told him, and I said, and Grandma is not your slave. You need to bend over and pick up everything and put that bedspread on. And he did it.
Yeah.
He did it.
How old is Kyle?
7 today, like I said before. Today is,
Interesting.
This month.
Yeah, I really love that title, but it felt a little too confrontational, a little too harsh.
Yeah.
So on the next edition of my book, I might make the subtitle Raising Able, as in raising ABLE, Raising Able Children.
Right.
How to Retire as the Family Servant.
Okay.
Titles are tough, Barbara.
Yeah.
Titles are really difficult.
Yeah. I wonder, and you know what, if you don't start early with teaching them all this, I have a feeling that as an adult, your child, sometimes also you are their servant. I'm sorry. Like if, not in my case, everybody's fine, but I'm just thinking it could carry on because I've heard it in other cases.
And then people don't know how to hold a job down. They don't know how, the one thing that chores really develop in a person is a sense of responsibility and self-discipline. Because, there are things you do whether you feel like it or not.
Exactly.
And the sooner you develop that ability, that mastery in yourself to have some kind of self-discipline, the easier I think your life will be.
Well, the thing that worries me, that if we don't teach the children to help us in one way or another around the house with chores or whatever, when they are visiting someone else, then I'm worried that they're not saying, "Can I help you with the dishes? I'm seeing some guests tonight. Can I help you with the dishes? Do you want me to make the bed? Do you want me to change the sheets while I'm here?"
Yeah.
And I found that you mentioned, exchange students in your book too. And I've had exchange students and also cousins live with us, young cousins who decided they wanted to live someplace else, lived with us. And I found that they offered to help before your own children sometimes. And the exchange students especially, "Can I help you? Can I do the dishes?" They also liked being part of the family and the family dinners. So, and you mentioned that in your book.
Family
how do you
dinners are
do
very
this?
important. Yes.
Yeah.
I like that you say exchange students. When it's someone else's house, it's more fun. You're trying a little bit harder. But I want to tie that back to something that's really important. You said when they're not home,
Right.
you want them behaving a certain way.
Right.
Well, this relates to when your teenagers are 60 miles away going 60 miles an hour.
Right.
We want them making good decisions. How do you learn to make good decisions? Sometimes you have to make mistakes. Getting back to helicopter parenting or entitlement, you have to learn there are relationships. If I make this decision, this will happen. If I don't do the dishes now, Mom isn't going to bail me out. Mom's going to make me do the dishes before she takes me to go visit Aaron, okay, or whatever, to my soccer practice, whatever. Okay. So I call it the 60-60 rule because you know what it's like to have young drivers. You want them to be doing the 3 S's: seatbelt, sober, and speed limit.
Right.
And you're trusting them with their lives, with your car, with the lives of their peers. So believe it or not, this all ties back to chores and developing self-discipline and responsibility. Doesn't that sound crazy? And it takes years, as you know. It takes years. It doesn't happen overnight. There are no one-click fixes.
No, no, no. So you start when they are very, very young. And if you
Before
don't,
they can
so
talk.
what?
Before they can talk.
You know, if you don't, so what? Start now.
It's true.
Because they need to understand, well, they're going to grow up, they're going to go off to college, or maybe they're going to go off and live with someone. And I keep thinking about that too. Okay, you're going to go off and live with, is this person, this guy or gal, going to say, Lord, didn't you learn anything?
And the answer might be no.
Right.
And the chores have to be more than cleaning my room or putting away my dish.
Right.
It has to be cleaning the family bathroom, the family dishes, because there's something about, it makes that connection with community.
Yeah, and you know, it's got to make them feel like they've contributed something.
It makes them feel like they've contributed, like they belong.
Yeah.
My whole method, my whole approach, which is more than chores, by the way, you know, this is a jumping off point. It's based on the work of Alfred Adler. He was a crony of Freud and Jung. They had the Wednesday night group in Vienna. They started modern psychiatry. Jung eventually broke away from Freud. Who wouldn't? As did Adler. And Adler's main idea is that people want to belong. And chores are a way of belonging. Mom's counting on me to empty the dishwasher. Mom's counting on me, or Dad's counting on me to mow the lawn. I have to do it. I hate doing it. And they'll complain. But deep down right here and here, it really is affecting them in their deeper psyche.
Yeah. You mentioned something else in your book too, and that was about having dinners together. And I keep mentioning my family right now. Well, because these things are happening, and because it just so happens, even though I'm old grandma, I have a young family there, and so it's almost like you're starting over again. But when they moved in, we mentioned that we like to have dinners together. You know, my husband and I said we should have dinners together. Again, there we go back to when we were kids, right? And our grandson loves it. Oh my gosh, he wants to eat in the dining room. He wants to eat, are we eating as a family tonight? That's his question every night. Are we eating as a family tonight? Well, yes we are. Or maybe Grandpa and I are going out to dinner, but tomorrow night we'll be eating as a family. And when he sits down and everyone has their meal and they've said grace, he then starts with, and so, what did you do today, Grandma? He did that on his own. What did you do today, Jordan? What did you do, Mommy, Grandpa? And so we all, and then we go to him, and everyone says what they did. And I really love this.
Barbara,
love this.
my next book is called, well, I haven't come up with a good title yet, but it's how to grow children who will eat vegetables. And I'm repeating again, family dinner.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'd like to use that story in my book.
Oh, sure.
Did he have family dinner before he came to your house?
No. My daughter is one of those parents that everybody has to keep going because they're going here, they're going there, or she's coming in from work, whatever. And so they kind of ate once in a while. I'm sure they ate as family, but
how did you convince her to have family dinner?
There was none. There was no convincing. It was because we said we like to eat. If you're going to be here, let's eat as a family. And I think she was really happy. Maybe she was happy about that because she could stop for a minute too.
So there are numerous studies that back this up. Family dinner, not only does it help with weight, because you're eating differently, you're probably eating better food, so it's good for your physical mind, it's good for your emotional mind. It's also the anti-drug.
Really?
Studies have backed it up that if you're eating dinner with your family, you're much less likely to be involved in nefarious behavior, such as drug abuse, shoplifting, alcohol, driving. And the other thing it does is this. My children got out of Westford Academy at 2 p.m. you don't have to be back in until midnight, according to the junior operator's license. That is 10 hours.
Wow.
Put family dinner in the middle. I've now cut that time in half. And we had gotten lax with one of our children, where we had you get tired of fighting them.
Yes, yeah.
And saying, you will be home for dinner. We got lax, and it came back to haunt us. She got in trouble. Yeah.
Well, by having dinner together and having someone say to you, what did you do today, Susan? You can't say, well, let's see, I had drugs and So you're going to stay away from that. You're going to want to say something like, oh, well, I went to a meeting and I was really good.
That's a good one, Barbara.
All right, I went off and got drunk, you know. Can't do that. So that's a good point
That's
right there.
That's right. And I did find in my survey there is a connection. If you have family dinner, you likely have family chores. They go together.
Yeah.
And then you just add family meetings, family dinner, family chores. Okay. And I also found there's a generational change, both in chores and in dinner. 20% less from, let's say, baby boomers to Gen Y or millennials. I call millennials in the book. 20% drop.
If they're not eating together, then they're probably taking their own dish, like you say, one person's dish and bringing it to the sink and everything.
Or they're eating prepared food.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing I wanted to mention is that I imagine that you are planning another book. And so you want to tell us a little bit. You just mentioned that, you know, your next book.
It's about food. How are your grandchildren with eating? Yeah. Yeah. And there are ways that you can encourage them to try new foods, to not be out in public and go, I hate onions, Grandma! And again, it's following the same method. There are a lot of families who have real big eating issues.
Yeah. Well, we'll work on it, I guess. Well,
Yeah.
time is up.
That was it?
And
that was so fast.
I want to thank you for this book.
Thank you.
I'm happy that I have this book, and I intend to read it cover to cover.
Okay, good.
I'm trying to.
And you can get it on Amazon. You can also get it at my own website.
Okay.
So, but Barbara, it was wonderful to talk to you.
Well, I
you're just
enjoyed
very
doing the
easy.
show, and I hope that I hope they enjoyed watching it. And but why don't you all join me next month for some past shows, and then I'll see you again in September. Enjoy the summer.
The Minuteman hosts every second Wednesday of the month, but since the first is on a Thursday, all right, we're gonna do this all over again. So you come for lunch, and you'll get a free lunch from Minuteman, and also. All right, and stop laughing.
Take 47.
Take 47. Oh, I'll just do it like this. I'll just do it like this.
Okay.
I did see you down in a hut.
A senior?
Kill two birds, one stone.
Good.